Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Under a Rock with Brielle and Guerlain. Today, we are continuing our discussion of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book 2. This is episodes 4, 5, and 6. And I'm excited because these are some good episodes.
Yes, they are.
We are finally introduced to Toph, which is great. But that's, of course, not until the last episode that we talk about today. So, yeah, let's get started.
So the swamp.
The swamp, yeah.
Very this episode really emphasized on the spiritual aspect of the duties of an avatar.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Because, Aang hears the swamp calling to him and he kind of ignores it. And when he ignores it, the swamp's like, get your ass over here. What do you think you're doing?
Creates a whole tornado.
Yeah. But you're right. I feel like this episode, especially at the end when we meet the people who live in the swamp and the guy kind of explains how the swamp works. This episode is very much spiritual, very much environmental, which I think is so important to the Avatar. And, unfortunately, Aang is an Avatar in a time of war. But if he weren't, this would be stuff that he deals with,
right.
All the time. This episode is also it really gets my heartstrings because Uncle Iroh is just willing to do whatever it takes for Zuko. He is willing to humiliate himself and act like a beggar and be poor and extremely humble and dirty so that Zuko's okay. And I really admire that about him because this is a man who grew up in the lap of luxury. He was a prince. He was an esteemed general. He probably had the best of everything. And now he has to be a beggar in the streets. And I'm sure that stings a little, but you never know it with Uncle Iroh. You never know how badly it may hurt him or upset him to have to dance like a monkey for random passersby,
Yeah. He's a very humble man.
He is. He is a very humble man. And I think he had to learn that because I don't think he was humble in the beginning.
No.
In the beginning of his journey, so to speak. I think he had to learn that,
I really I think throughout the series, especially in book 1, it's implied that he was humbled. I'm not sure if it was specifically his travels, his journey into the spirit world that humbled him.
Yeah.
But they bring that up a lot. And
Yeah.
it seems like that's one of the key things that changed him or made him who he is in the series.
Yeah. I'm sure the defeat of Ba Sing Se and the loss of his son probably kind of catapulted him into a new way of looking at the world and looking at himself.
Right.
This episode also has the best song ever. It's a long, long way to Ba Sing Se, but the girls in the city, they look so pretty and they kiss so sweet that you really have to meet the girls of Ba Sing Se.
It is a pretty song.
It is a pretty song.
It's funny. I thought you was gonna mention what I think is the best song was when they caught Appa and Momo and it's like dun, 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 dun. I forgot the words.
Oh.
Dun, 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 chopping dead.
Oh yeah.
I don't know that.
I don't know if I would call that a good song. Anyway. No, but I really like the Ba Sing Se song because it has a very folksy folksy militaristic vibe to it. This sounds like a song that recruits would sing to each other hey, we're gonna be in Ba Sing Se soon, oh, the girls are so pretty there, really, and then they'd sing. The song implies that there's a culture and a history to the Earth Kingdom, and obviously we know that. I mean, these cultures and kingdoms have existed for hundreds of years, but it's just nice to get these little snippets of culture, that's not just history,
Right. And I didn't even think about that. It's kind of like Mulan.
Yes, it has a slightly Mulan vibe to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The girls were fighting for.
Yes, exactly. That's the kind of vibe that it gives off. It gives the vibe of this is a song that soldiers would sing when they go to defend Ba Sing Se, which is probably how Iroh knows it.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So back to our heroes, they go to the swamp and they all get separated. Appa and Momo get stuck, and then the gang is like by themselves. And I feel for Appa. He like just gives up. He just like falls flat. He's like, I'm not moving. I'm not going anywhere.
And Momo tries to motivate him with the whistle.
Yeah.
Like, come on, get up.
Aw.
And you see in this episode, how much, at least to me, this stuck out. Like how flexible, or like how much articulation Appa has in his tail. The fact that he was just able to slap it on his back to get Momo.
Oh yeah.
I was like, oh wow, like,
That's cool.
Appa's
Yeah.
pretty flexible.
Yeah. I mean, he still couldn't like jump over that route, but he,
Yeah, he could do that though.
But I get it. When Appa like falls, I was like, me too, buddy. Me too. Something that I like about this episode is like, even though, you know, Sokka is very much like, there's no spirits, it's all made up, it's nothing, they stick together. Like when they all get scared, they huddle together, they like sleep like lying against each other because they're a team. And I thought that was sweet, you know, because like Sokka could have been like, no, you guys are babies, I'm gonna be over here, like you guys comfort yourselves. But no, like he sticks with his family, and I think that's sweet. You know, it's a little thing, but I think it's sweet.
Nice little touch.
And then all of them get pulled away by the vines, and they see visions in the swamp. Katara sees her mother, Sokka sees Yue, and Aang sees a girl that he doesn't know. And later on, we learn that the swamp shows us people who we have lost and people that we miss. But because time is an illusion and Aang is the avatar, he can kind of see into the future, someone he's going to meet. I think it's very interesting that Katara sees her mother. Not because it isn't the obvious choice, but because when she goes to touch her mother, it turns out to be like a tree stump, and she can't connect to it. And I think that might be, you know, and this could be me like reading into it, but I feel like that feels like a metaphor. Like, Katara, your mother is dead. It's very sad, but you can't keep trying to reach her. She's gone. You have to let it go. You have to move on. You know, like that's how I kind of viewed that scene. That like her trying to touch her mother and then not being able to is kind of like the swamp saying, yes, acknowledge your pain, but you can't keep grasping for something that's not there. And, you know, unfortunately, I don't think Katara really does that until book 3 when she tries to take revenge. But I think that's kind of maybe what the swamp was trying to do. And obviously this is all just like speculation. This is like my own interpretation. And then Sokka sees Yue. And something that I think is so interesting and calls back to what I said a couple episodes ago about how Sokka like is really like in the spirit world despite not liking or caring or being like respectful of the spirits. Yue, as the spirit, was the only one who interacted. Like, the Katara's mom didn't interact with her. Toph's, like, little ghost figure didn't interact with Aang. She kept running from him. Yue's, like, vision was the only one to interact with any of them. And she chose Sokka to interact with. And I just think that's so goddamn interesting. Like, Sokka rails against the spirits and mysticism and magic, despite it being shoved in his face every day. And yet the spirits love him. The spirits, like, go to him, like, all the time. And I just think that's so funny.
With this specific vision, the only thing that, like, kind of, at first I thought it was really Yue, first watching it.
I mean, it could have been.
It could have been. However, the reason why I think it wasn't, it's because she said you couldn't protect me.
Yeah, Yue would never say that.
Yue, she didn't feel that way.
Yeah,
like, she knew that it was her destiny to like give her life back to the koi fish, to the moon spirit. I think that's just all in Sokka's head. That's the guilt that he's walking with.
Oh yeah, he's got a lot of guilt. I think manifesting. No, wait, is it manifesting? Manifesting,
yeah. Manifesting.
He's got a lot of guilt growing inside of him. He's got a lot of guilt growing inside of him, so it makes sense that the swamp would pick up on that. Especially because Sokka kind of strikes me as the kind of person to like push down his feelings, both in a effort to be more manly, but also in we don't have time for that right now, which I sometimes do. I admit I'll like push my emotions down because like this is not a good time for me to cry, or this is not a good time for me to be angry, and then later they'll come out and I'll feel so like raw and wrung out. So I feel like with Sokka, the reason that the swamp was able to like pick up on his guilt so easily was because he's been like fighting it back almost, and he's not feeling it, you know?
Right. And all the visions eventually lead them to the heart of the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
They all run into each other. Funnily so, comically. I don't know, whatever word.
They literally just go crashing into each other.
And they all share with each other what they've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a little funny that Katara was just like, "What girl? Like, what girl were you following, Aang?" But then she says she saw her mom. Sokka admits he saw Yue, but he's just blaming on swamp gas. It's like,
Yeah.
listen, like we've been here for a while. We're probably just a little delusional. There's nothing crazy or spooky going on.
Yeah.
And up comes you and his swamp monster.
Yeah.
Bending the water in the vines.
Which is crazy. I feel like plant bending is really overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
Like no one else does that. No one else attempts to do that. Like I'm surprised that no one else attempts to bend the water and the plants. I mean, because when it comes to water bending, or when it comes to all of the bending styles, there's like the main one, and then there's like this like the side bending. So like with fire bending, it's like lightning, and with earth bending, it's like metal bending and stuff. And with water bending, it's like blood bending. But there's also plant bending. Like I'm surprised that nobody else but these people in the swamp like figured that out. You know?
Well, it's kind of with I forgot her name, but the old lady.
Oh yeah,
She doesn't.
Hama. She kind of shows that you can take water from the plants.
She doesn't bend them, but she
Yeah.
she takes the water from them.
Yeah. It's just an interesting thing that was never really explored.
Right.
You know, as like a cool thing to do. Because you know, when you first hear about like earth bending, like when I remember when I first watched the show like years and years and years and years and years ago, and they kind of like briefly mentioned earthbending. I thought earthbending was like plants and stuff like that. That's what I thought, like kind of like poison ivy kind of thing. But it's not. It's like the actual earth. So I think it's interesting that. But it also makes sense why like earthbending is not plants, because all of the elements are non like living things. Plants are living things, so they can't be like, I guess, bent the same way, you know?
Right.
But yeah, it's really cool to like see another application of water bending.
Yeah.
And I love that like that like he's fighting them and they're fighting him, and it's like crazy, and they're like, "Oh no, we're gonna die!" And then they like slash through, and it's just this guy, and he's like, "Hey." Like he completely forgets that he was angry. They completely forget that he was trying to kill them. Like they're just friends now. It's cool.
Everything's all right. It's just a guy protecting his home. That's how Sokka chalks it up to.
Yeah. Something interesting though, going back to like the swamp and the visions. So the swamp shows Aang a living person, someone that he has yet to meet. And Yude says that it's probably because, you know, he's the avatar. He's kind of outside time and space. But I also wonder if it's because of like reincarnation. Because like later on in the show, Toph asks if friendship can transcend lifetimes. And Aang says that they can. He thinks they can. So what if like Toph and Aang were always supposed to meet and they had met in like a previous life? You know, like maybe that's why he was able to see her. Because yeah, she's living, but she's also dead, or her spirit is dead. And, you know, he knew her in a past life, you know. Yeah, it just made me think of that line that she says in like a later episode.
And that's a possibility.
Yeah, because she ends up being friends with Korra.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, I don't know. It's just little like ideas, you know, little things that to nibble on.
And you gives them this whole talk about life.
Mm-hmm.
And spirits, and uh Aang is able to find Appa and Momo
Mm-hmm.
by touching the tree and like doing his avatar stuff.
Yeah.
Um, it's pretty impressive that the swamp people were able to like catch them.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely powerful and creative benders. That's
Mhm.
100% true. Something that I have to ask, and this is for like the people watching who are not American, because I know that Avatar was like broadcast in like a bunch of different countries in different languages. Did you get the joke? Like the joke of the swamp people, because they're obviously meant to be a parody, a loving parody, but a parody of like Louisiana, Florida gator swamp people. Like that was the joke. So we get the joke because we're
Right.
Americans. We know those stereotypes. We know like the people in like the Louisiana swamp who like hunt gators, and we know people in the Florida Everglades and stuff. But like, did everybody else get the joke? Did they understand why it was funny? Did they understand what the reference was? Like if you were watching it in England or in like Spain or in an Asian country, like did that just like go over their heads?
Unless like they watch other pieces of media that depicted that. So
I don't know though. I feel like that's so inherently American.
mhm.
Because like I know that like other shows will probably portray the American South, but like gator swamp people is like a very specific type of American South. And it's just I just wonder that. I just really am curious if like other people got that, because it's so American. Like the show does a really good and I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. The show does such a really good job of keeping things very like Asian centered. And like a lot of the references are various Asian cultures or references to Asian, deities and things like that. So to have such an American thing in the show is hysterical to me. And I just wonder if people got that. Like if they thought it was funny, if they're not American, if they understood what the joke was.
Hopefully we get an answer.
Yeah, yeah. If so, whoever is watching us who is not American, please let us know. Like I'd love to hear about how you viewed the show. Like what was different, what was the same,
Didn't think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah, because most of the show is very like baseline Asian. At least I would assume. I'm not Asian. But so for this to be so comically American is very interesting to me. Yeah, but Yue kind of explains that that everything is connected. That the earth is a living thing and we have to listen to it and respect it. As an adult, that speech was a little bit like trite, but as a kid, I'm sure that it was very moving.
What do you mean by trite?
Well, so as an adult living in the world,
Yeah.
I've heard this speech 1,000,005 times from all different kinds of like media and TV shows. I mean, I grew up in the 90s. Environmentalism was very big then, Captain Planet and all that. I've watched Lion King. I know we're all connected in the circle of life. So for me, this is not my first time hearing this speech. So for me, it's a little bit like cliche. But I imagine for a child, it would be the first time hearing that speech. And I imagine it must have been revolutionary to them. This idea of how we're all connected and that time just goes on and we just kind of live in this world and we have to show each other respect and kindness and consideration, and that death is not necessarily the end, because there's always rebirth. And it's really interesting, just to think about other people watching this.
It didn't do anything for me.
Okay.
But I wasn't paying attention. I'll admit I wasn't paying attention.
Oh yeah. So they get Appa and Momo back and they leave the swamp people. They say goodbye and nice knowing you, I guess. And then we get a quick cut to the guy from the very, very beginning who insulted Uncle Iroh and made him dance. And the blue spirit is back, baby.
Yep. Did you see the little foreshadow in the beginning when the shopkeeper with the moving shop had a whole bunch of masks and the blue?
Oh
spirit
no,
was
I
one of the masks?
didn't. Oh no, I didn't. But
Yeah.
obviously, this is where Zuko gets his Dao blades, the two
Yeah.
blades, which is cool. But yeah, blue spirit is back, baby.
Yeah, he is.
All in all, this is a good episode. Because you said like it really introduces the concept of how the Avatar is a spiritual guide, you know. So now Aang knows who he has to find. He has to find a little girl and a flying boar. Yeah.
Good luck. Well, I mean, he finds her.
Yeah.
The screaming bird was hilarious.
Yeah. I forgot about that. That like got me.
Like, why why does it scream like that? And the
Because
swamp.
the swamp is creepy and weird.
But the swamp doesn't even like the bird. It slaps it at the
Oh,
end.
yeah. Listen, there's a lot of weird animals in the world, not even considering the Avatar world. There's a lot of weird animals in our world.
Just in general, yeah.
Apparently, this is very topical, but Australia found like 2 new species of like animal. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Like,
it's a weird place.
land animals? Or
Yeah. I think they're like some kind of lemur.
Wow.
Yeah. Weird place.
It is.
Okay. So, on to episode 5, Avatar Day.
Yes.
I just want to start this episode off by saying this episode is gross. When you see the spider in Sokka's mouth,
Oh, yeah.
that is so gross and so unsettling. Oh, God. I was like, ew. Oh, God, it's in his mouth. Like,
Fun little tidbit. When, so I haven't started watching Avatar yet up until this point. Like, I was just kind of just like passively watching it. I wasn't really,
oh, for this?
yeah,
Oh.
for when this episode first aired.
Oh,
like,
when the episode first aired.
because I believe like I really dug deep or like dived into Avatar in the middle of book 2. So, Nick.com, they used to have this thing called Nicktropolis,
Mm-hmm.
where all the kids, if you watch Nickelodeon, whatever, you go on Nick.com. It's like this virtual world where you can create an avatar,
Okay, like
walk
The
around.
Sims.
like The Sims.
Okay.
But it was all based on Nickelodeon characters.
I feel like I remember that.
Nicktropolis.
Yeah.
So you get to roam, like you could meet Jimmy Neutron, you can meet SpongeBob, be in their world and everything.
Mm.
So they had this little thing called, it was either the lounge or the cafeteria or whatever. It was like a virtual location. And on repeat, it'll have a screen, and the screen will show clips of like, Nickelodeon shows. On repeat was this scene of Sokka snoring and the spider and Momo reaching on repeat. Like it just constantly
Ugh.
over and over again. And so watching this for this episode, and seeing that, I was like, oh, this scene again. Like I haven't watched it a million times on Nicktropolis because for some reason they want to shove this scene down our throats.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Just brought back flashbacks.
Yeah. And Sokka's like, hey, Momo, personal space.
But Momo saved them, technically.
He did. He had a
Could've been
spider in his mouth.
And they get ambushed by the rough rhinos.
Yeah, which is so fun. It's so fun to like meet new characters and like, see how, various people, use like weapons and stuff when they can't firebend. It's so cool. And they manage to get away on Appa. They save Katara's scrolls. They save Aang's staff, but they do not save Sokka's boomerang.
No time for boomerang.
Which is so sad.
It is.
Poor Sokka. But I will say, like a scene later when they're getting food and like Sokka's still upset. Like Katara gives him a hug. Like she's like, "It's okay, Sokka. Like we're here for you." Like I mean, obviously she doesn't care, and obviously she thinks he's probably a little ridiculous for caring about the boomerang. But like, just something about this episode, this entire episode, is so good for the siblings. Like it's such a good sibling episode. And so like Katara giving him a little hug and be like, "It's okay, ponytail guy."
I used to be boomerang guy. Damn.
Like it's just sweet. I really love Sokka and Katara's relationship. I think it's so great. Also, I will say that like it's kind of bloodthirsty that they have a holiday specifically for hating a person. Like I feel like most holidays don't do that. Like I feel like most holidays are for celebrating a person. Kind of bloodthirsty that this town is like, we hate this guy so much. We have a whole holiday talking about how much we hate this guy.
Oof.
Like the only equivalent I can think of is like, I guess sort of Columbus Day.
Well,
Yeah.
now.
Well, yeah, but now it
Yeah.
wasn't like that years and years and years ago. Like people, I mean, white people didn't know and or they didn't care to know. And so like just now we're starting to be like, oh, fuck Columbus. But it's just so interesting to me that this town has a holiday for hating someone because they hate them so much.
Well, because they killed their powerful leader.
Yeah. Chin
Um,
the Great, who was so great.
right. It's funny that you bring that up. Being Jewish,
Mhm.
it's not like you guys have a holiday for hating Hitler or anything.
Oh yeah, I mean, in some of our holidays, they involve like the best example I could come up with that kind of goes along with this is Purim, which is my favorite Jewish holiday. And so Purim involves a story about this guy who tried to get rid of all the Jews in Persia, and we managed to defeat him. So there is a small level of like, fuck that guy, fuck Haman, but it's not the whole point of the holiday. There's like more to it, but it is a part of it, us being like mad at this guy. So I guess that's kind of like, it's not like unheard of, but it's still funny to me that they have a holiday just for hating a guy. Also, the judge magistrate guy, that's Chief Fu from Mulan. Speaking of Mulan. Yeah. That's the Emperor's advisor, from Mulan.
They even kind of made him look like
a little bit with
the
mustache and stuff.
Wow.
And so basically they go to this town and they find out this town hates the Avatars because Avatar Kyoshi, like over 200 years ago, killed their like leader, their Chin the Great. And Aang is so sweet. He's like, I don't think an Avatar's ever murdered anyone. And it's like, really, Aang? You don't think an Avatar's ever killed anyone? You poor, sweet summer child. Like, I guarantee you the Avatars killed people. And we're not even talking about Kyoshi, but like, they killed people.
I mean, yeah. But scenes like this, it implants the question early into the viewers of, okay, Aang, if this is how you're feeling about it, how exactly do you intend on defeating the Fire Lord?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You know?
Oh yeah.
If you're really paying attention, like you will ask yourself that question.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, obviously, because I was, young,
no, but you're right. If Aang is already at this point, this early, showing objections to murder, even in the face of an evil person, then yeah, it really it sets up that decision that he makes later on in the show. You're absolutely right. But he's so sweet, and he gets thrown in jail.
Yeah.
And now him and Katara have something to talk about. I feel like the amount of times that these kids have been thrown in jail is ridiculous. It's hilarious because like they're like 12 and they just keep getting thrown in jail. And it's so funny to me. Like there was a post on Tumblr that was like listing all the times that the characters have either been in jail, been captured, and then broken out of jail. Mm-hmm. And it was like a long list. It was a long list. I feel like I talked about this before.
I think so.
I did when Katara was thrown in jail. But like, you gotta love Sokka with his costumes and his, little Sherlock Holmes thing. It's cute. It's really cute. I
love how Katara just asks when he's like on the
dragon pipe. Yeah.
She's like, where did you get that? And he doesn't even answer.
Yeah. It's just watching like Katara and Sokka interact is so funny. This episode is so funny. Because she's just kind of like going along with it, like humoring him. And like every time she gets to a conclusion before him, he's like, I want to do it. I'm the detective, Katara. Like,
does the hat, the eyepiece, does not mean anything to you?
I know. I love Sokka. I love just how it's so weird because Sokka pretends to be so serious and he pretends to be so like manly. Not that he isn't, but like he pretends to be so serious, but like he's such a dork.
He is.
Like he's dressing up in costumes and acting like a detective. Like he's such a dork.
Even like the little comment he said in the beginning when the man was running with the torch, he was like, very manly. I couldn't pull it off though, but
yeah. I love Sokka. I think he's such a great character. I really do. Mm-hmm. So basically, Sokka does some sleuthing, and he realizes that the statue of Chin the Great and the temple were made at the same time. So that is a point in the idea that Kyoshi did not murder Chin, that she was never there. And then they go to Kyoshi Island to learn a little bit more, and they see this like tapestry that shows like Kyoshi like on the island, like celebrating Kyoshi Day. Because while it's Avatar Day in that one town, it's Kyoshi Day in another, because it's the formation of the island. And Sokka's able to like look at the tapestry and be like, oh no, it's sunset. Look at the shadows. Like, that's so smart. Sokka's so smart. I love Sokka. He's so smart. And Katara is like, wow, she had really big feet. And apparently she had the biggest feet out of all the Avatar.
Yep.
And
she lived the longest too.
Yeah, she lived the longest too. Kyoshi was a really, really cool Avatar.
Yes.
And I, for one, want her to step on me.
Okay.
Yeah. She's great. I love her.
I mean, it is, I'm sure you already know that it's confirmed that she's gay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
She is a stone cold, badass lesbian with gigantic feet who I want to step on me.
All right. And is another portion of who does Brielle want to step on her? Because it was first the bounty hunter. She was a bounty hunter, right?
Yeah.
I forgot her name though already.
June. Yeah.
So you wanted June to step on you.
Yeah.
Now you want Kyoshi to step on you.
I do.
Let's keep adding to the list, man.
I really do though. Like, listen.
May?
Well, I won't say that because May is like younger than me.
Okay.
You know? But if I was younger, definitely May. Suki, see, I really like Suki too, but I don't want Suki to step on me. She could, but I don't want her to. Listen, I have a very specific type when it comes to women. I like women who look like they could kick my ass. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I do. Like, that's just how it is.
I get it. Hey, I'm not judging. I'm not judging at all.
Anyway, moving on. So they go to Kyoshi Island. Oh, and the foaming mouth guy is there.
Yeah, no one likes the foaming mouth guy.
I like the foaming mouth guy.
No one likes it.
I just think it's funny that he like freaks out and then he looks around and like no one else is freaking out and he's like, oh, and he just like wipes his mouth and like walks away. So Sokka and Katara realize that Kyoshi could not have killed Chin the Great. So they rush back to the other like town. And meanwhile, Aang is like talking to the prisoners. You know, they're just having little chats, you know, talking about love and life. And I just, Aang, see, that's what I mean. Like Aang doesn't have a sarcastic bone in his body. Aang is so genuine. He makes friends everywhere he goes. He makes friends with people who should be his enemy. Like it's so sweet that he was like able to like sit down and talk with those guys and like, you know, and they cared about him and they cared about him and Katara. Also, I think the gag of Aang like taking his hands and head out of the stocks and just leaning on it is so funny.
I mean, we know he could just escape.
Yeah, I think that's funny. This episode is, I think, very important because it introduces children to the futility and the banality of the legal system very early.
Yes, it's just us.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Like, that's not fair. No, it's not. It's not fair. And that's the legal system.
Like, you say what you did. No, you say what happened. I say what happened. And then I decide who's right. Yep.
Like, I hate to be cynical, especially today, which is, this episode's going to come out later, but today is the day after, for those of you who are in America, Biden was announced as the president. And so it's a pretty happy day. I feel good about my life and, you know, about the future. So I don't want to be too cynical, but, you know.
Yeah.
They have the trial and Aang doesn't get a lawyer. Like, Sokka isn't allowed to, like, explain everything, which kind of sucks because Aang can't do it. He completely messes it up. And so Katara is like, oh, well, maybe if we put him in Kyoshi's clothing, it will, like, help him remember and he can, like, speak to Kyoshi's innocence. And then Kyoshi, like, comes out, basically, and, like, embodies Aang. And the funniest thing about all this is that Kyoshi was innocent. She did not kill Chin the Great. She separated the island and he fell. She did not kill him. But she's such a petty bitch that I love that she was like, oh no, I killed him. I'll kill him again too. I'll kill him 1,000 times. I'll kill all of you. I don't care. Like she was in the clear. She was in the clear to be like, I did not kill him. And instead she went, no, I murdered that bitch. Like, love it. I love it so much.
I mean, she generally does view it as she killed him, because we find out in like the very last few episodes, Sozin's comment, when Aang asks Kyoshi for advice, he brought up the same point. It's like, you didn't kill him. He just stood there. He was too stubborn to move. She was like, I don't see the difference.
Yeah. Oh, Kyoshi.
Yeah.
But that's where Kyoshi gets the like the fandom interpretation that she's just like happy to murder people, which I love. I think it's so funny. But yeah, she basically explains that like Chin was going across the Earth Kingdom and like conquering and hurting people, and he was going to hurt her village and her home, and so she literally separated the island,
bro,
which is amazing.
I feel like this is the first episode that actually shows the true power of an avatar. Like, she was able to move a whole piece of land.
Yeah. And that move employed every element, because there was obviously the earth, but she also had to manipulate magma and water and air to push the land away. Like, you're absolutely right. It is a truly astounding feat of, earth, water, air, and firebending. And it's amazing. Like, Kyoshi was not messing around.
And like, throughout the series, we technically don't see this with any other avatar. Like, sure, Aang was a badass with his fight with Ozai, and we see Roku, battling a volcano. But Roku lost.
Yeah.
And Aang's battle with Ozai, although it was impressive, Aang is nothing compared to moving a whole fucking island.
I know.
So like, yeah, Kyoshi was a badass.
Yeah. She really, I think, understood the powers that an avatar has, which is really interesting, because like Kurik was the one before her, and he was not apparently a good avatar.
Yeah, he was chill. He was laid back.
Yeah. So it's interesting that she was like, I'm going to be the best avatar ever. Bye.
And she is.
Yeah, but she basically explains that like Chin fell because he was too stubborn to move, and she made Kyoshi Island. And so the town is like, yeah, but Aang is still guilty. And they're about to boil him in oil, which is horrifying. That's very, very medieval. When the Rough Rhinos show up and try to take over the town. And Aang is able to save the town. And they're like, okay, I guess we won't kill you then.
Like, just community service.
Yeah,
now,
community service.
One thing, can we appreciate like how well Aang pulls off the Kyoshi makeup?
He does. I was about to say, like, Kyoshi makeup looks so good on everyone. Like, it works on everyone. Like, when Sokka was in it, later on when Azula and Mei and Ty Lee are in it, like Suki, obviously, Aang, everybody looks so good in Kyoshi makeup. It is so, like, it's such a great look. Like, it really accentuates your eyes and, like, gives you a really great, like, jawbone. Like, such a good makeup look. It's impressive. He does look really, really good. And Aang is able to stop the Rough Riders. And Sokka finds his boomerang.
Boomerang always comes back. Yay.
You do always come back. And the town basically decides that Avatar Day will be a day to celebrate the Avatar with unfried dough.
To signify the day he was not boiled in hot water.
Yeah, oil.
Oil, not boiled in oil.
And Sokka's like, this is the worst town we've ever been to.
It's right. It's a silly episode.
It is a silly episode. But like I said, it does give us really interesting backstory about like Kyoshi and the other avatars. But in this episode, meanwhile, Zuko is like being a little punk. He's like stealing shit from people.
Is in this one?
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And then Iroh gives this kind of speech about like hope. Iroh is so wise. He really, really is. But he gives this speech about hope. That hope is something that you have to give yourself to move forward, that you can't seek hope in another person. because Zuko's been kind of looking to the Avatar for hope, and he can't do that anymore because Iroh rightfully predicts that even if Zuko found the Avatar, it wouldn't make things better.
Mm-hmm.
He's right. He's absolutely right. He's just very wise, and what we were saying earlier, that he is very humble, and he had to learn that. You really see that in this episode. The mental like fortitude that he must have to be able to live in these like terrible conditions and still have a positive outlook.
It's just a little heartbreaking to see the frown on his face when Zuko says that they no longer have anything to gain by traveling with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But I was so smart because instead of letting Zuko, walk, he gives Zuko the ostrich horse.
Yeah.
And watching it first time, I'm thinking, oh, he's just being nice, being caring. But it would be much easier to follow Zuko and track him with him traveling on the ostrich horse than him traveling on foot.
Oh yeah.
Which we find out later that he has been following.
Yeah, he has been. Because the thing is, like, Iroh knows that he could be fine.
Yeah.
Iroh will be fine. He can live. He'll be fine. But but he knows that Zuko is going to need help. But he also knows that Zuko needs to do this by himself.
Yeah.
Zuko needs to take himself on a life-changing field trip.
Yep.
Zuko needs to take himself on a life-changing field trip. But it's true. I mean, again, it shows how much Iroh loves him, that he's able and willing to let Zuko go off on his own. It's dangerous, to let him and to help him learn and grow as a person,
Yeah.
Because he could have fought it. He could have said, like, no, Zuko, you can't go. I won't let you, blah, blah, blah. But he didn't. He understood what needed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is sad.
It is.
Yeah. All right. So I guess on to the next episode.
The Blind Bandit.
The Blind Bandit.
Here we are.
Yeah. This is a good episode.
The greatest earthbender of all time.
Yep. So something that I just want to say about this episode is I love Sokka. I've said this a million times in this episode. But one of the things I love about Sokka is the way that his masculinity is portrayed. Because while he is manly, and while he is interested in military pursuits, and he's a soldier, and he values those things like being tough and hunting and fighting, he also loves shopping.
Mm-hmm.
And he cares about his appearance, and he's incredibly smart. And he's not, despite being a capable and a amazing soldier, he's not tough, he's not tough. I just love that. I love that this show shows us all the different ways that you can be a man. I feel like I said this before, but I want to reiterate it, because Sokka being allowed to enjoy shopping and being encouraged by Katara and Aang to get the bag. You like the bag, get the bag. Is so important, because in other shows, if a character was like Sokka, they might tease him for it. They might say that he's being girly or make fun of him. But instead, they encourage him, and they say you know what, Sokka, you've had a rough couple of days. You deserve this bag. You should get it. It'll look great on you. And then it does with the belt.
Right.
And I love that Sokka loves shopping,
Yeah.
I just love that. So they're in this town, and Aang is looking for an earthbender. He's specifically looking for the little girl with the flying boar. And this guy says oh, there's an earthbending school. You should try that. So Aang tries that. And I got flashbacks with this little scene of the kids fighting and the guy being oh, if you pay now, you get to go up a belt. Because when I was little, I did karate, and the company that we did karate with was kind of a scam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, looking back, I feel incredibly guilty for the money that my parents lost. I mean, I don't think they care about it anymore, but I still feel incredibly guilty. Even though it wasn't my fault, I still feel incredibly guilty about the money that my parents lost, because I did karate. I did it for over a year. And as anyone will tell you, it takes years to become a black belt. It takes years of study, years of training, years of mental fortitude. I have a black belt. I have a black belt in karate. I should not have a black belt in karate. But the way that this school worked is they kind of like rushed you through the belts, and um and they kind of took my parents' money. Now, I did learn stuff. I definitely learned karate. Like, I know how to do karate, but I am not at all good enough to be a black belt. If I had to like guess where I am on the spectrum of belts, which I know is different for each type of karate, I would say I'm maybe like a green belt, which is like the third or fourth level in terms of my skill. But of course, it's been years, I don't remember. So it's probably down to like a white belt, you know. But yeah, this whole scene really just brought me back to that school and like learning karate and like, you know, going up belt after belt after belt, you know, and being a black belt. I did learn some stuff, but obviously not enough to be a black belt.
Okay.
I mean, it's a cool thing to tell people.
Right.
Because if I tell them I have a black belt with no context, they're like, oh, don't mess with her.
Unless like one person challenges you. Like, oh, you're a black belt? Me too. You want to like have a sparring session?
No, sorry. Sorry, I can't. Sorry, I got a thing to do. Bye. You know. So yeah, that's what that made me think of. And then I also love that Sokka's like, he immediately regrets getting the bag, which is like, I get you, Sokka. Buyer's remorse, I get you. And then Momo like gets in the bag like a little dog. I just think that's so cute. And then these kids are like, oh, we're going to Rumble, like Earth Rumble 6, but you can't go because you're losers. And Katara's like, be right back.
Hey, tough guys.
And like, back. You know, you think that she like flirted with them or something. Nope, she just, you know, icicled them to the wall. Yep. I love Katara. I love her so much. She's so funny. But they go to Earth Rumble 6, which is very obviously meant to look like a wrestling, like WWE kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Especially considering they have a character that's meant to be a parody of The Rock. Mm-hmm. Voiced not by The Rock, but by another professional wrestler.
Mick Foley.
Yeah, Mick Foley, which is fun.
A Long Island native.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. Didn't know that. I know very little about wrestling. You know a lot about wrestling, but yeah. Something that actually I wanted to bring up specifically about the Earth Rumble is, so wrestling, for those of you who may not know, is fake. That doesn't mean
scripted.
That doesn't mean that they're not actually doing anything. It doesn't mean that they're not actually getting hurt. It doesn't mean that they're not amazing athletes, but it's all like fake, you know?
See, that's where it gets, you can't use the word fake because they actually are risking their lives.
Well, yeah, that's because we could get into a whole conversation about how the management of various wrestling corporations does not treat their wrestlers well, but that's a different.
I mean, yeah, but so is I guess more respectable to say that it's scripted. Like,
okay, well, see, I don't see why would I know that? Yeah,
like the outcome is predetermined.
Yeah,
like we all know that.
But I mean, the fighting isn't necessarily like fully 100% fighting. Like they do like pratfalls and stuff
sometimes.
Yeah,
it depends on like who you're working with.
Yeah,
like Brock Lesnar, mm-hmm. He will do like the air punches, but sometimes he will knock you for real. And
yeah, but the thing is, the way that they fight is taught to them. There's a specific way of fighting that they learn so that they can protect themselves a little bit better.
Right.
You know? I'm not trying to like say that like wrestling is bad or stupid or anything like that. Like I think it deserves respect, especially the wrestlers. I think that they deserve a lot of respect for what they put their bodies through. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, you know, in a perfect world, they wouldn't be getting hurt. You know,
right?
They fall in a way so they don't get hurt.
Right.
And like you said, it's scripted. They know who's going to win. The Earth Rumble 6 doesn't seem to be like that.
No.
One, because they get mad when Aang wins the gold, but also because they're using like rocks and like that. You can't like fake that. Like they're hitting each other and throwing each other off with rocks. Like that's incredibly painful. Like I don't think Earth Rumble 6 is like scripted, it's like not. Wrestling.
Yeah, it's not.
It's the real deal. Like they are really throwing rocks at each other, which is really scary. That's scary. Like, oh man.
I mean, they're earthbenders. They're used to it.
Yeah, you know, I guess. But I will say there are references to like American wrestling and having it being scripted, because there's like the firebender character that's obviously like a guy putting on a costume and being like, I'm the bad guy, because there's always a bad guy in wrestling. Like there's always like the good guy and the bad guy in wrestling, and
Right.
so he's the bad guy, you know, which is cute. I think that's a cute little like nod to things like that. Like, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Glow. You ever seen that show?
No.
Glow is a show, or was a show on Netflix, I think it's finished, about female wrestlers in the 80s. Because that was the thing. There was like a female wrestling league in the 80s. And one of the characters is like a Russian character. Like she plays a Russian in the ring, and she's meant to be like the bad guy, because it was the 80s. It was the Cold War.
Right.
So she's like, she always goes up in matches against the like all-American girl character. So that's what that made me think of, like the firebender, like, you know. And he sings like the Fire Nation national anthem, which I don't think is the national anthem. It's just, oh, Fire Lord.
My flame burns for thee.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I don't think that's it.
Yeah. I also like Sokka just getting way too into it. Like he's just super invested in it.
Boo, Fire Nation.
Yeah. And then they bring out dun 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 dun. I did it that way because I didn't know if we had the ability to play the actual music and not get sued.
We won't get sued, but we definitely get like copyright strike.
Yeah. But yeah, she's here and she's ready to kick some butt.
John Cena, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah. So such a great introduction. Like you see the belt and then it pans. You see that she's blind. It's like this,
and it's like a little girl. Yeah.
It's like a little girl.
And then you get to see her earthbending, and it's amazing. Her earthbending is so goddamn cool, the way that she uses like seismic sense to be able to fight. And Aang realizes, oh, this is supposed to be my earthbending teacher. Like she waits and she listens, and that's how she fights. And so Aang goes into the ring and fights her. I say with air quotes because he doesn't want to fight. He just wants to talk to her. But he knocks her out of the ring, which is impressive. And then later he tries to find the blind bandit, and he meets those guys again. And my favorite part is like Katara gets them to say, they're like, oh, well, there's the Beifong people, and there you have a flying boar as their like symbol. And she just goes, I got my eye on you, Water Tribe.
Yep. The
That's
iconic,
Swerve.
The iconic scene.
Yeah. Water Tribe. Also, I think it's interesting that like the Beifongs are like the only characters in Avatar to have last names. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
Well, because they're so rich and
They're so rich they bought a last name.
basically, yeah.
No, it's just a little thing I think is like funny. And they go to the Beifong mansion and they see Toph again, and it's like a completely different person. Like she's like little and delicate, and you know, yeah, she's very pretty. And you know, they realize that her parents, because she is blind, her parents have kind of been keeping her locked away because they assume that she can't do anything. And which is sad. You know, it's really sad that her parents don't have more confidence in her and have more respect for her. Because clearly she can take care of herself, and clearly she's a lot stronger than they realize. And it makes me feel bad because I wonder what would have happened if Aang had never come across Toph. Like, what would have happened to her? Would she just have continued to like live under her father's thumb, like doing wrestling matches, you know, every now and then? You know, how long could she sustain that, you know?
I would imagine like by the time she hit 14, she would have been like, yeah, I'm out.
Peace out. Like she would have left. Yeah, I could see that.
Because she was 12. She's 12.
12, yeah. She's the same age as Aang. I also really like this episode because like Toph and Aang have such sibling energy too. Like when they're at the dinner table and they're like fighting each other using like earthbending and airbending, like it's just very funny. They really are like little kids like fighting at a table. Like it's very funny.
It's like, what's your problem? What's your problem?
Yeah.
And the mom is just like, how about we go to the living room for dessert?
Yeah. Yeah, I really like Aang and Toph's relationship, even at the very beginning, because they like fight each other, and not in like a bad way, but they like bicker and they fight. And I think Aang needs that because Sokka and Katara pretty much are like willing to like go along with Aang and kind of deter to him, but Toph fights him, and I think that's important. I think he needs someone to like give him a little bit of a hard time every now and then,
Yeah.
and Toph does that.
Especially since he's the airbender, he has to. She's the perfect person to teach him how to be grounded.
Yeah, exactly. I also and we'll talk about this later as we like see more with Toph, but I really like the show's treatment of her disability. Now I am not disabled, so at the end of the day, I can't really say if it's like a good representation or not, but I feel like it is because her blindness is never like the butt of the joke, or if it is, she's the one making the joke, which I think is so great. Like her blindness is never a detriment to her. It never like it's never seen as a weakness, which is great because I feel like so many other shows, even shows for adults, treat disabilities like, an immediate horrible thing. And, oh, it's so sad that they, they're in a wheelchair. Oh, it's so sad that they're blind. Like, no, Toph is Toph. She happens to be blind. It doesn't make her any less strong or powerful or, hilarious. She uses it to her advantage, and I feel like it's such a wonderful representation of a character with a disability.
I mean, especially cool the way that she sees. Like,
yeah,
she does her
sees with her
sonic
feet.
scream, and
Yeah,
she gets a good look at you.
yeah, it's really crazy.
Did you not catch what I just said?
I just did. I just got what you were referring to. I was like, sonic scream? What are you talking about? And I was like, oh, wait.
And then they get kidnapped.
Yep.
Because I forgot his name. Vince McMahon feels like he was cheated. Basically.
Vince McMahon.
I mean, that's what he was.
He was, yeah. And then we have the greatest transition in TV history, in my humble opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Toph must be so scared. Hey, why don't you come up here and I'll kick your ass?
She says it with so much confidence, too. She's like, I'll wipe that grin off your face. And he's like, I'm not smiling.
Yeah.
But she doesn't care. She's like...
Yeah, that is the greatest transition in TV history. Nothing will ever be funnier than that. The first time I watched it, when I was like going through the whole like show on the binge, I died. I was like, oh my God.
It was on the floor?
It was so funny to me. She must be so scared. Why don't you come up here and fight me yourself?
Yeah, but that's tough.
Yeah. And so they rescue Toph. They're able to, so they get Aang out, and then Toph basically goes up against all the wrestlers and just decimates them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's so cool watching this fight scene because you really see not only like just really cool earthbending moves, like some of the things that the guys do, but you just see how intensely like powerful and smart Toph is. Like, her fighting is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
It really, really is cool, and it's such a great scene. And it's great because throughout the series, Toph is kind of like she even though she and Aang are the same age, she's very much the youngest. Like, she's the most immature. She's the like kind of the silliest. She is the least serious out of all of them. But then you remember scenes like this, and you're like, no, she can really like do it. She can really fight, and it's amazing.
Yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
And this really shows how well she waits and listens.
Mm-hmm.
When she's up against the boulder and the hippo, instead of like, attacking them head on or just knocking them out the ring like she did with everyone else, she hears, he doesn't have a name, but she hears the guy swinging and yelling like, ah, and instead of, taking them out and then dealing with him, she was like, no, he's coming from this way. We're on this little platform thing. Let me turn it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that he ends up hitting them and like does all the work for me.
Yeah.
Like that's yeah.
Yeah, she's great. She really is. And then the gang asks her to come along with them and be Aang's earthbending teacher, and her father says no. It's such a bait and switch because we've seen this sort of moment in shows before. We're like, oh, her father's gonna finally realize that she's strong enough and powerful enough, and he's gonna say, go Toph, go live your dream and help the Avatar and save the world. But her father's like, no. No, you have to stay here forever. In fact, bars on the window. Like, It's kind of it's sad, but it's funny.
I can't help but like feel like that was such a Haitian move. Growing up Haitian, and it's the classic line. I've realized that I've given you too much freedom. Haitian parents, they love saying that to their kids. Oh, I give you what they say in Creole. It's like, I give you too much freedom. I let you go out too much. It was like, I went out for one day.
Yeah.
For one day. Like, yo, you're in the streets so much. You're doing this, you're doing that. It was just one night. I'm always home. I'm always studying. I'm always doing my schoolwork. For one night, I decided to go out, and now I have too much freedom. I have, my God, the flashbacks. But yeah,
You and me, we both have flashbacks in this episode.
yeah, because that's what it was. Like the complete like you said, the complete opposite of what the audience would expect.
Yeah. And so Toph basically sneaks out. I mean, we don't learn that, but we know.
I feel like the gang kind of. I didn't think they knew at first, but watching this, I've seen that like that little subtle thing that they said, where she was like, "Oh, my dad had to change her heart," and then Sako Katawa was just like, "Well, let's go before he changes his heart again."
Yeah.
I feel like that was like a little nod saying that, oh, they know that she's running.
But you know, she had to. Like, she had to go get away and help the Avatar, and it's so nice because like you see her on Appa's back and she looks happy. Like she's free for the first time in her life. You know, she's ready to start this adventure with them. And then her father's like, "Hey, so these guys kidnapped my kid. Find them."
Can you imagine though? Like he's rich, but saying that he's talking to if he has like other wealthy friends. It was like, "Well, how's everything going? How's everything going? The Avatar kidnapped my daughter." Like what? Like he just going around saying the Avatar kidnapped my poor little girl.
Yeah. But actually, I wonder if he would say that because remember, those boys didn't think that they had a daughter.
Oh.
So maybe they don't tell anybody because no one knows that they have a daughter. Ooh.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Huh, interesting. At the end of all this, they're just some stupid kids on a life-changing, world-altering trip.
Yep. Just the usual.
Just some stupid kids.
Yep.
Who I love a lot. Yeah.
And now the gang is all here. Team Avatar. Oh, wait, no.
Well, I mean, for the most part, Team Avatar is all here.
Yeah. We're still just missing Suki and
Zuko.
But this is our gang.
Yeah, this is our main gang.
Yeah.
This is our main gang. Which is nice, Everybody's here.
Yep. And I can't wait for the next episode after this. Because that one's really good.
Yep, they're all good. Oh, yeah, I remember I was watching it, and it literally every time I'm like, oh, this is such a good episode. Oh, this is such a good episode. Oh, this is such a good episode. And my mom is like, are they all good episodes? And I'm like, yeah, they are. You've been watching with me.
So she's been watching with you this whole time?
Sort of. She'll like be in the other room and be listening,
Okay. I was going to ask, like, what does she think?
I mean, she likes it, I mean, I don't know if she like loves it, but I think she likes it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I guess any like final remarks on these episodes?
No, I think that's it.
All right.
These are some good episodes. We're getting into gear.
Let's wrap it up.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, for watching and supporting us. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube. Tell your friends. We will see you next week for another episode. So goodbye.
Later.
Bye.